Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Oral Communication in Context. We are now at our 8th week, and our topic for this week is speech act. And for this week, we will define speech act. We will also distinguish types of speech act, and we will also recognize statements appropriate for the types and classifications of speech acts. So, what is speech act? Speech act is an utterance that a speaker makes to achieve an intended effect. Some of the functions which are carried out using speech acts are offering an apology, greeting, request, complaint, invitation, compliment, or refusal. A speech act might contain just one word or several words or sentences. We have, for example, thanks and thank you for always being there for me. So I really appreciate it. So both show appreciation regardless of the length of the statement. So that is a speech act. So for speech act, we have three types of speech act. And according to J.L. Austin, a philosopher of language and the developer of speech act theory, there are three types of acts in every utterance given the right circumstances or context. So we have locutionary act. We also have illocutionary act and perlocutionary act. So let's first discuss locutionary act, and it is the actual act of uttering. It is when the speaker performs an utterance or locution and which has a meaning in traditional sense. So an example of an speech act under locutionary act is statement, please do the dishes. So there is an uttering or an actual act of uttering. So for illocutionary act, we have, for illocutionary act, it is the social function of what it is said. It is the performance of the act of saying something with a specific intention. By uttering the locution, please do the dishes, from the example that we have, the speaker requests the addressee to wash the dishes. So by uttering the location again, please do the dishes, the speaker requests the addressee to wash the dishes. So for locutionary act, is the resulting act of what it is said. This effect is based on the particular context in which the speech act was mentioned. It happens when the speaker says has an effect to the listener. So we have here, please do the dishes would lead to the addressee washing dishes. So there is the result of the actual uttering that happened in locutionary act. And for illocutionary act, the social function, which is addressing this addressing to the addressee to the dishes, and per locutionary act, it is for the result act of what was said. So those are the types of speech act. And also for this one, Garen Husar also explained these three types of speech act through a statement analysis. He has given his example. So for example, we have John. So John will say, John and Laura has a conversation. So let's take a look of John and Laura's conversation. So John will talk, darling, do you want to go out to the show tonight? And then Laura replies, I'm feeling ill. And then John replied, that's okay, you stay there and I'll make you a soup. So notice how Laura didn't respond to John's question by saying, no, I don't want to go out to the show tonight. What she actually said, her locutionary act, was, I'm feeling ill. An illocutionary act is what a person does in saying something else. Locution is a speech. Illocution in speaking becomes illocution through phonetic assimilation. In saying that she feels ill, Laura was telling John that she doesn't want to go out. Beyond communicating the state of her health and the answer to John's question, Laura accomplished one more thing through saying, I'm feeling ill. She got John to make her some soup. A perlocutionary act, perlocutionary through speaking, is focused on response others have saying something. Others have to speech act. There are also indirect speech acts, which occur when there is no direct connection between the form of the utterance and the intended meaning. They are different in force, so intention, from the inferred speech act. For example, so let's have an example statement. Can you please pass the rice? So for the inferred speech act, do you have the ability to hand over the rice? And for the indirect speech act, please pass the rice. So another examples, or we have more examples of indirect speech acts. So can you check the cabinet for my phone? So it indirectly asks the listener to check the cabinet. Also, another example, do you know if he or she got a 100 on the recent exam? So it indirectly asks the listener what someone's grade is. And another example that we have is the window is still open. So it indirectly asks the listener to close the window. So there is a inferred speech act and indirect speech act in the locutionary act. So according to Searles. So Searles, as a response to Austin's speech act theory, John Searle, a professor from the University of California, Berkeley, classified illocutionary acts into 5 distinct categories. So we have assertive, so also directive, and commissive, expressive, and declaration. So let's first discuss assertive. And assertive is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker expresses belief the truth of a proposition. Some examples of an assertive act are suggesting, putting forward, swearing, boasting, and concluding. So this one example that we have is for assertive is no one cooks better pancakes than me. So this is a type of illocutionary act in which we could see that the speaker expresses belief about the truth of a proposition, and she is concluding that she cooks better than anyone else. So that is an assertive type of speech act. We also have directive, and it is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker tries to make the addressee perform an action. Some examples of a directive act are asking, ordering, requesting, inviting, advising, and begging. So we could see the difference between assertive and directive. For assertive, they are suggesting, pointing forward, swearing, boasting, and concluding. Meanwhile, in directive, they are asking, ordering, requesting, inviting, advising, and begging. So we have in an example, please close the door. So it is requesting a someone to close the door. So for commissive, it is a type of illocutionary act which commits the speaker to do something in the future. Examples of a commissive act are promising, planning, vowing, and betting. So for example, from now on, I will participate in our group activity. So the speaker is vowing that he or she will participate in the group activity that they have. So it commits on doing something to do something in the future as well. We also have expressive speech act, and it is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker expresses his or her feelings or emotional reaction. So for expressive, it is mainly for emotional feelings or reactions also. Some examples of an expressive act are thanking, apologizing, welcoming, and deploring. So we have here, um, I am sorry for not helping out in our group projects and letting you do all the work. So you are apologizing, and also thank you for all the work that you have done. And so we could see that the speaker is giving gratitude. So another classification that we have is declaration. And for declaration, it is a type of illocutionary act which brings a change in the external situation. Simply put, declarations bring into existence or cause the state of affairs which they refer to. Some examples of declarations are blessing, firing, baptizing, bidding, passing a sentence, and exo-communicating. So we have here, you're fired. And by saying that someone is fired, an employer causes or brings about the person's unemployment, thus changing his external situation. So we could see that for declaration, it is a type of, again, it is a type of illocutionary act which brings a change in the external situation. So again, these are Searle's classification of speech act. We have assertive, directive, commissive, expressive, and declaration. So these are according to John Searle. So we also have to discuss performatives, and Austin also introduced the concept of performative utterance. For performative utterance, statements which enable the speaker to perform something just by stating it in this manner, and verbs that execute the speech act that they said by the right person under the right circumstances results in the change in world. Note that certain conditions have to be met when making a performative utterance. Let's give an example. For example, the phrase, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," when uttered by an unauthorized person, such as a judge, this will have an actual effect of binding a couple in marriage. However, if the same statement is uttered to the same couple in the same place by someone who is not authorized to marry them, as in the case of accompanying picture a robot, then there is no effect whatsoever because a condition was not met. So this is for performative. Always keep in mind that speech acts include concrete life interactions that require appropriate use of language, which a given culture. Also, communicative competence. So communicative competence is the ability to use linguistic knowledge to effectively communicate with others. And communicative competence is essential for a speaker to be able to use and understand speech acts, idioms, and other nuances in a certain language might be lost or misunderstood by someone who does not fully grasp the language yet. So for this topic, I will show you some videos of kind of speech acts, and also uh, for um, for for us to be able to distinguish the types of speech act and also recognize statements appropriate for the types and classifications of speech acts.
what is Speech Act? Do you know what is Speech Act? Or are you familiar with the word locution, elocution, and perlocution? If not, let me tell you all about it. But first, let us define what is Speech Act.
In linguistics, a speech act is an utterance defined in terms of a speaker's intention and effect it has on a listener. Essentially, it is the action that the speaker hopes to provoke in his or her audience.
Speech acts may be requests, warning, promises, apologies, greetings, or any number of declarations. As you might imagine, speech acts have an important part in communication.
There are three types of speech act: elocution, elocution, and perlocution. Let's start with locution. What is locution or locutionary act?
Locution is a saying something with a certain meaning in a traditional sense. There are two types of locution, the utterance act and the proportional act. Utterance act is when something is said or a sound is made and which may not have any meaning. For example, oh is an utterance communication which is not intended and is just a sound caused by a surprise.
The next type of locutionary act is proportional act. Proportional act is when a particular reference is made. For example, the black cat. Something is referred but no communication is intended. Next is elocution. Elocution is when you perform a certain action type of a speaker is doing something by uttering the words. For example, is when you are declaring, I have a pen. Asking, do you have a pen? Promising, I will give you a pen tomorrow. Commanding, give me your pen. Offering, would you like to borrow my pen? Threatening, give me your pen or else you will regret it. Or thanking someone, thanks for the pen.
And last but not the least is perlocution. Perlocution happens when what the speaker says has an effect on the listener. For example, is when you persuade, convince, or insult someone.
And that's it. We hope you learned something.
Bye!
So I have shown you some videos that define speech act, distinguish types of speech act, and also recognize statements appropriate for the types and classifications of speech act. So again, we have three types of speech act: locutionary act, elocutionary act, and perlocutionary act. And for the classifications of speech acts, according to John Searle, we have assertive, directive, commissive, expressive, and declaration. So for this week, we have two activities. We have activity 1 and activity 2, but I will just only require you to answer activity 1. So we have, for activity 1, we have speech act classification. Identify whether the statement is directive, expressive, assertive, commissive, or declaration. So total of 20 items. So again, no need to answer activity 2, answer only activity 1. So for this week's lesson, we have some references or communication in context, a textbook for senior high school from by Apolonio Joshua from Unlimited Books in Tremors, Manila. And we also have teacher's manual for oral communication in context for senior high school. I will just post the website link for it. And also we have some suggested readings. So it's a website link again. I will just post it again. So again, for activity requirement, only answer activity 1. And for this week, we have defined speech act, we have distinguished types of speech act, and we had recognized the statements appropriate for the types and classifications of speech act. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write to me. You may directly ask me at school, or you may message me directly at Facebook Messenger. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. So before I end this lesson, I would like to share a Bible verse from you. So we have here from the book of Mark chapter 9, verse 23, said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. So thank you once again for this week. We are now at our 8th week. So thank you so much once again, and God bless.